Welcome to the show. We hope you have a blast. Thanks for making time for the Dealer Talk podcast. Another business leader, here's a penny for your thoughts. This ain't a regular conversation, baby. This that Dealer Talk.
Welcome to another episode of the Dealer Talk podcast. This is your host, Herb Anderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we have a repeat guest. I think I've had this person twice already on the show, and I'm super excited to have him again. Because we're going to talk about things maybe in a little bit of a different perspective than we have in the past. So let's jump into it right away. Without further ado, Jeff Bounds on the program. What up, Jeff? How are you, man? Hey,
Herb. What's going on, my friend? Good to be on the show again.
Yeah, dude. Good to see you. I always enjoy our conversations, man. There's always a lot of takeaways, and I appreciate your perspective, dude. So super stoked for this one, for sure.
Likewise, man. I love what you're doing out there. I mean, like I always say, I think, your podcasts are really out there to really try to help people inside of the industry, give a little bit of a different flavor. I love you bring a lot of unique guests on. So I think who's ever turning into this is really going to get some quality information.
For sure, man. No question. So typically I kick things off with a background, but we've already done that, and people know who you are. So obviously you were the head of the automotive resource for Grant Cardone. So Cardone Automotive Resource. Tell us about that, man. What's going on with that? And I know you're doing your own thing now, and I'm super excited to share that with everybody.
Yeah. So like you just mentioned, I was the head of automotive, actually the head of retail for Grant Cardone, meaning that I was focusing on all of his retail properties, and obviously automotive was a big focus for me. Went down there for a year to actually work with Grant and help him build out the offering that he had for his automotive platform and also his other retail platforms. And in October, I've actually ventured out and I've started my own company, which is called Jeff Bounds International. And I'm actually focusing on coaching, speaking, and training in the automotive industry and also other verticals worldwide.
Right on, dude. So I got to ask, man, because, when you think about the journey, right, you were definitely at the top, right? Working for obviously one of the bigger names just in business in general. Obviously you're a successful person and you've done some pretty amazing things. So why the need to do this project?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think anything in life, it's about the journey. And for those of you that are on this today, and you know my story, my background, I started in the car industry. That was the first opportunity that I had once I got out of college to get into the working world, right? So grew up in the car business, in the 90s, learned the business really, really well, was able to move outside of the business. I've sold in multiple different verticals, sold to executives in Hollywood, sold into the advertising industry, sold in the software space, got back inside of the automotive industry right when the whole internet era started with Cars Direct, Auto and things of that sort. So I've seen the whole evolution of the automotive industry, and I always have a special place for it in my heart. And I truly believe that it's an industry where, look, if I can be able to do the things that I've done in my career, starting off in the automotive industry, so can you. But I think today, the one thing that bothers me more than anything else is people really don't talk about the opportunity inside of the automotive business, and people just kind of get stuck in a rut and they don't realize the opportunity that's really present in front of them. I owe, without a doubt, the car business to everything that I've achieved in my life, because if you can be successful in the automotive, in retail automotive, you can literally do anything in your life.
Yeah, listen, man, I totally echo that myself. It's one of the reasons why I do the podcast, is because I feel, like this, like you said, like this industry is giving me so many opportunities, and it's kind of my responsibility, my duty to kind of give back to it. You know what I mean? In some whatever way, shape, or form that I can. And so I definitely resonate with that. So what's the goal, man? I mean, let's say, 5 years from now, where do you want this thing to be at?
Yeah. Well, the goal first and foremost for me, starting my own business, is I'll kind of go back in time I remember when I'm starting off in the automotive industry, and I grew up in a household where neither one of my parents went to college, really didn't have a direction, went into the car business because, hey, I saw an ad at that time in the paper, said it was an opportunity to make six figures. I said, hey, this works for me, got involved in it. Was really more of an introvert at that point and didn't have the knowledge to be successful in sales. And I actually bumped into somebody that I guess was my original coach and mentor, and really helped me, turn the corner and get to the next level. And not only that, really exposed me to like personal development for the first time. So I think that experience right there, and had the opportunity to meet Zig Ziglar, which is one of the first, I guess, icons of the personal development industry. And as a young guy, met him, had a chance to spend time with him. And I remember that time he said, hey, if you focus on helping enough people get what they want, you'll be able to have whatever you want in your life. And that really just set in for me. So my whole career, I've been on the journey. I've been on the part where, I couldn't sell anything. I've been to the part where I started getting successful. I got to the part when I really started seeing my career rise. But I think the one thing that I've always kept is, authenticity. I've always remained very humble, and I've always kept inside of me helping others. So I see a lot of great people out there, see a lot of great young people out there today. I think our youth today are so far ahead of the curve of probably what you and I were when we were growing up. And I think their hunger for knowledge is unbelievable. And right now I'm actually coaching a ton of individuals in regards to growth, not just in sales, but in mindset and just personal development in general. And it just really impresses me because it takes a lot for a young person to be willing to invest in themselves and really be willing to get to the next level, but not only invest in themselves, but put in the work to be able to get where they want to be. So my purpose is to help as many people as I can really find the boundless potential, in life and in business. So that's my mantra.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, especially for those that are directly in sales that are tuning into this deal. There are dealerships taking ups and that sort of thing. I know that within the industry, and I see it more and more, which has me super excited. I see a lot of personal development in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's people listening to podcasts like this one, or reading books, or doing all those things, right, to kind of better themselves, get a little bit of an edge. But we were talking before we started recording here, and you said something that kind of got my attention, and I wanted to explore that more in depth. And that's the fact that, listen, you can do all those things, right? But it takes a coach. It takes somebody to kind of keep you on task, on track, to really kind of accelerate that journey, or to even just get it going. Because I mean, you can spend a lot of time getting information. I won't even say knowledge. You can get information, but it's what are you doing with that information, and who's keeping it real? You know what I mean? And kind of keeping you accountable. Do you agree? Like, what is your thought on that?
Yeah, well, just from my own personal experience, typically most people, for them to change, it takes what's called a never again moment. And that's literally where you hit the wall in life. Either you try something, you fail, you try something else, you fail again, or you're up against the wall. Maybe you got to pay your car payment. Maybe you got to pay your rent. Maybe you got to take care of a family, right? And then you really got to reach outside of yourself to find out where that is. So as you can see here behind me, I got a lot of books, man. I probably read over 1,000 books. And, I'm not telling that to impress anybody, but I was a person in high school that really could care less about studying. And I went to college, being fortunate enough on a full baseball scholarship, but I didn't really have interest in school. And I think the reason why is because growing up, unfortunately, the formalized school system really doesn't prepare us for, what we're going to experience in life. And I think when you're up against the wall, and this is back in the 90s, when if you wanted to get information, it was encyclopedias or the library, or, go to the bookstore and start buying books. That's when I really started to get into, reading. And it was really difficult for me to read. It was difficult for me to, I think with having ADD, ADHD, whichever way you want to label it, was hard for me to focus, right? So I had to force myself to read. I had to force myself to figure it out. I might have to read one page 4 or 5 times to get it, right? But then over time, like anything else, the more that you read, the more that you get yourself into information, you start to be able to read quicker. You start to be able to pick up the information. You start to be able to realize that it's not about the race to see how many books you can read. It's about finding that one thing inside of that book that can literally change your life. So there's a way that you study, there's a way that you learn. And I think for us in general, we have to learn how to unlearn, if that makes sense. Because we were programmed in school to memorize what we needed to know on the test. We weren't focused on imagination. We weren't focused on vision, dreams, goals. It was like, who can memorize information the best? And what that comes down to is the fact that there's some brilliant people out there. There's a society called Mensa, which is for like, really, really intelligent people. The problem with people in Mensa is they're super bright, but the world doesn't know about it because you try to have a conversation with them. It's like talking to a cyborg, right? And there's what's called emotional intelligence. And I consider myself to be a master at emotional intelligence. I really took an early interest in psychology, changed my life, changes the game in sales. So, we can literally talk today for hours and we don't have that time today, but everybody, I always tell people the pandemic is not COVID. The pandemic is the suppression of knowledge. And the pandemic is not giving people the secret to success or the secret to growth. And that's having a strategy of how to put it all together.
Yeah, dude, I love that. And I liked what you just said about EQ, because I think that's it's one of those things that it's very overlooked. How would you advise people that are tuning in to measure, first of all, to figure out what their EQ level is, and secondly, how can they develop that? Because you're absolutely correct, man. That psychology, like in sales, plays such a fundamental role when we really break it down. And I think the people that are really successful in sales are masters at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of my mentors that I spent a lot of time with was a guy named John Maxwell. And John Maxwell is a leadership expert, the best in the world. And when I really got interested in John Maxwell and I started spending some time with him, I actually invested a lot of money to get mentored by him. He says one thing, he goes, you got to know yourself to grow yourself. And if you don't understand how you see or what your map of the world is or how you retain information or your learning style, you're going to constantly struggle, not just in learning, but in understanding other people, right? And where the psychology comes into play. And, I've had some interesting conversations around this. And there's some people that'll probably watch this and have a smile on their face. I'm a master at neurolinguistic programming. And neurolinguistic programming is understanding psychology and understanding how the mind works and language patterns works to influence people to get them to do things otherwise they wouldn't have done. All the greats, Tony Robbins, Jordan Belfort, all the greats out there, the great salespeople leverage NLP. Now, a lot of people don't like it, but the reason they don't like it is because they don't understand it. But at the end of the day, when somebody makes a decision, they make that decision not consciously, but it's unconsciously. And it's being able to tap into those triggers to really hit the true emotion of somebody to get them to say yes. Because how does somebody make a decision 2 different ways? They make a decision on emotion, they justify it with logic. Yeah. Well, if you're just trying to feature benefit somebody like everybody out there is trying to do, that's why you're getting minis. That's why you're not closing a lot of deals, because you never really created the rapport. And rapport is something else that people, frankly, just don't understand. Rapport is thinking about, hey, man, I went on a ski trip. Oh, I like to ski. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, first and foremost, listening to the customer, understanding their world, and understanding how to ask the right questions to expand out what they're truly trying to accomplish. So that's the secret. And that's like, people ask me, what was the turning point for you? Turning point for me is when I started to understand people. And the turning point was when I started to understand that there's levels, right? There's levels. The level everybody strives for is mastery. Now, there's been quite a few people out there that have actually validated what does that mean. Mastery, if you read and you're into like some of the current authors, Malcolm Gladwell says that a master has spent 10,000 hours studying something, right? Now do the math. Most people don't even read a book.
Yeah.
Most people don't, try to better themselves. I've been studying 4 to 5 hours a day, every day for the past 20 years. Do the math. So when I get in front of people, sometimes I'll say, well, how did you like that? What would you say is like the one attribute about me that really stands out? And like certainty. People are like, dude, you're the most certain cat like I've ever known. Like just so you know, I don't use teleprompters. I don't use slide decks. I don't use notes. Dude, this all comes from right here. And that's the game. The game is, you got to be unconsciously competent. You got to be so good with your game that no matter what is thrown in front of you, it's natural. If you hiccup one time in an interaction, you've lost certainty.
Yeah.
And once you've lost certainty, you will lose the deal. Whether you're telling the truth or not, it's just how you engage. And there's these things like, we're having this conversation right now. There's micro expressions, there's body language. Somebody can be, yeah, it sounds good, but I mean, you can tell by their body language, dude, they're not in congruence, right? And 80% of sales is not verbal.
Yeah.
It's the other things that are around it. But here's the problem. If you don't understand how to read that, you're never going to see it, and you're going to wonder why you're missing deals.
Yeah, dude, that's so true. Like it's just, that goes to communication in general. The majority of communication is nonverbal, you know what I mean? And that's why, to me, there's nothing like the in-person interaction, because you can read everything, you know what I mean? Versus phone or email, that sort of thing. So I think that's, as a salesperson, or in general, not just in sales, but just in general, it's a good practice to study those things and master those things. So, dude, so I wanted to get your perspective on something, because you'd be probably one of the best person to answer this question. Your exposure to just your experience, your exposure to people like Grant and Maxwell, like you mentioned earlier. When it comes to training and development, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that claim to be trainers and coaches and that sort of deal.
Yeah.
What makes somebody truly a mentor, a coach, a trainer, somebody that well, I don't know if trainer is the right word. I like the word coach better.
Yeah.
What makes somebody truly a coach? Somebody that really is gonna help you get from point A to point B.
Yeah. Well, first of all, all you got to do is go through your social media feed, and everybody's a coach. And that's the new deal, coach, just like the word pivot. Those two words have probably been talked about as much in 2020 as they have been in a person's lifetime, right? And most people don't even understand what it means. But the first thing you want to see is if the person practices what they preach. And also you want to be careful where you get your information from, because there's textbook salespeople out there, there's theory salespeople out there, and they can talk about it all day long. And then when you try to put it into practical use, it doesn't work. And you have people out there that claim that they're coaches, and they can't even run their own life. I mean, you got people that are broke, with paycheck to paycheck, trying to tell somebody how to create wealth, right? You got people that are trying to do sales skills, and they were never successful in sales. So you got to look and see who that person is. But the number one thing, and just to define here what coach means, there's facilitated learning, and then there's coaching. Most people are doing facilitated learning, meaning like, hey, we're going to read the book for you, and we're going to read it together, and then we're going to talk about what did you get out of that. Well, that's garbage, right? Coaching is when I talk to you and I pull out everything that's inside of you that's already there, but you don't know how to find it. Coaching is when I listen to your phone calls and I can point out to you where you're broken. I can tell you why that's happening, and then work with you and give you the understanding and the strategies and tactics to understand how to fix it. So when you got to pick up the phone and make the call tomorrow, you're not going to make the mistake again. That's where transformation happens. Training having a mentor, being on a call with 100 other people and having somebody just go through random stuff. You can't put success in a box. Success is based on where this person is in the world. And the number one thing that I recommend everybody with the baseline to start with is to do a behavioral assessment, personality test. And anybody that's watching this today, reach out to me. I can tell you how you can do that. But that's the baseline of how you get to the next level. Because again, if you don't have that foundational understanding, you're never going to move forward. Because think about it. If you want video training, go on YouTube. You can spend your lifetime watching videos. You can go to seminars. You can go to these, what do they call them nowadays? These challenges. I mean, everybody's got a webinar now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's about the pitch. It's about selling you more information that's recycled information. What you want, and the problem is, hey, if you can get Grant, that's great. Grant's amazing. I love Grant, right? But you're going to pay $150,000 to have him coach you. Not many people can afford, $100,000, $150,000 to have him coach you. Now, if you can get with somebody that has the expertise and has been able to perform at a very high level and spend that one-on-one time with you, that's where it's at. Because it's like you can't learn in a group. I mean, it's, you might as well just call it a mastermind. You can get an idea, but an idea is only value if you can put it into use, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I wanted to talk about, that was actually one of the things that I wanted to cover with you. And you touched on it right now. You talked about, we can't keep success in a box. And I've been watching a lot of your content. And one of the things you talked about the other day, which really got me thinking, was, success is unique to the individual. You know what I mean? It's unique to the individual. And if you don't know, like you said, if you don't know yourself, then you can't grow. Mm-hmm. And in that context, it feels like there's a lot of people confused when it comes to that, man. You know what I mean? Like
the whole world is confused, man. I mean, it's like the other thing I will tell everybody as well that's watching this, and I'm one of the rare few that'll say this, you need to get your hands on every book that you can. You need to study everything that you can. And there is no one source of information. You got to take a whole bunch of information, aggregate it, and find the commonalities. You got to find mentors at different levels in different strategies, right? So it's like, if you don't look at, you got to sit down and scope out first and foremost what you truly want, right? It has to be definable, meaning that you're going into this, you're getting out of school, you're going into the car business because you are trying to create savings account. You're trying to create, an opportunity to build up wealth. Maybe you want to grow inside of automotive. Maybe it's your first exposure, it's selling. In the automotive industry, and you and I talked about this before, this is the problem with it. You got all these automotive trainers out there, and I'm not hating on them, but what I'm saying is all they've done is been inside of the dealership, right? Here's the problem. The people that you're trying to sell cars to are in other verticals. They're in other areas of the world. So if you can't relate to them and you can't understand what they're doing every single day, that's why they don't understand the car business, because they come into it and they're like, what's going on here? This is like not the type of business that I'm used to, right? And then you look at success in sales. If you have somebody that's just worked in a dealership, or you've had somebody that's only been successful at one level, you want to find somebody that's been successful at many levels. I mean, I know people today that says, oh man, I'm the greatest salesperson. Okay, great. What have you sold? Who have you sold to? Well, I've sold to one audience my whole life. Okay, well, maybe in your world that means you're great, but greatness is all relative based on what you've been able to do. So when you take in your message out to, let's say, 3, 4, 5 verticals, and you've been successful at every vertical, then there's commonalities, and then there's consistency with that. So all I'm saying to everybody out there in the car business is, you're in the car business, which again, one of the greatest businesses in the world, hands down, but you're dealing with people. Yeah. You're dealing with, it's sometimes very, very smart, successful, progressive people. Treat them like they want to be treated. Understand their deal. Understand what a real estate agent does, understand what a physician does, understand what an executive does, understand these people. Why? Because when you're having conversations with them and you're building the rapport, you're learning things all the time. I mean, that's why you want to read. You want to read the Wall Street Journal. You want to read, publications. You want to be as diverse as possible in your knowledge, because then that's going to make you great with the conversation. And when somebody tells you one thing, say, yeah, I just heard something the other day, around that. What are your thoughts on that? Now, all of a sudden, it's that rapport, that conversation is there, instead of just getting them locked into this like funnel of, hey, what car, what model are you looking for? If you're looking to lease, you're looking to buy, you trading, whatever. I mean, like, you're taking all of that out of the deal. I mean, for me, when I was in the car business, man, it's like the first half of the sale was, hey, man, this is the nicest guy on the planet, right? And the commonality and the rapport. So by the time we got down to negotiate, I'd already won him over. So now it's like that wall wasn't up, because I created that. I'm like you, you're like me. So when we get down to the negotiation, remember, it's emotion justified with logic. All I have to do is just go back on everything that I built on the front half of the sale, and I don't even have to hard close somebody.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, man, for sure. And I like that you talked about, success, in the sense of multiple verticals and stuff. I think that makes a lot of sense. A lot of times it's very easy for us to be, to have these blinders on, because we're doing the same thing every day, all the time. And it can, going back to the emotional intelligence piece that we were talking about earlier, it can definitely hinder our ability to make those real connections with people. So bringing it to the car business specifically, man, with your experience and now doing this deal, what's the biggest downside right now in the automotive industry? And I know that's a huge question, but 50,000 view when it comes to development.
They can't handle the phone, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're not prepared to understand that today the game is the phone. The day is social. The game is social. It's like you're inside of a dealership working for yourself. You got to create your own business. You can't wait on ups. You can't focus on leads. There's many different aspects that you have to do. Really, all you have to do is just distinguish yourself from the herd and put yourself out there, put your name out there, so people can relate to you and people can like you. But again, I'm going to continue to roll back to communication. Because look, I mean, really, other than the fact that there's more avenues for people to get pricing today, there's different ways for them to not engage with you, either in a face-to-face basis or maybe avoid you on the phone. It's still, people buy who they like from, right? So if you don't like the person, you're probably not going to buy from them. But if you like the person, you still got to do the transaction, and you still got to feel good about it. So it's like creating that engagement with the consumer that, hey, I'm going to make sure I take care of you here, and I'm going to make sure you get the best experience. And while we're at it, I'm going to make sure that it's the right deal for you. I'm going to get you the best deal. I mean, it's pretty simple, but people make it way too complicated, because it's the fear of like, oh my God, what if I give them the price and they shop? Dude, they're going to shop you anyway, right? I mean, a new car, let's just face it, a new car is a commodity.
Yeah.
Everybody's got the same cars. For the most part, they're selling them for the same price. People aren't making a lot of money on the front end of the car deal. So what does it come down to? Who you want to do business with, right? Now, used car, totally different animal. Used car, sure. You got to develop more of like, hey, this is unique, this is special, it's unbelievable, and nothing. You got to leverage technology. You got to be smart. You got to be sharp. Meaning that somebody hits you out of state on a used car. Hey, man, do you still have this car in stock? I see you have it online. Actually, yeah. I believe I still have it. It's out on the used car lot. I'm going to go over and take a look at it. Let me ask you this question, man. Is this number you're calling on, is this your cell phone number? Yeah, perfect. Let me just walk out to the car. Let me FaceTime you real quick. I'll give you a walk around.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that you touched on phone and social. I think you're spot on. And the thing that's crazy to me that I don't understand is, why are we not doing more of that? Because it is a differentiator.
You want to know? It's the mid-level management inside of dealerships is broken, because you have managers that maybe were great salespeople. They're not, and that's what they are. They're managers. You don't want managers. You want leaders. You want a dirty fingernail mentality inside of your dealership. You want them to get their hands dirty. You want them jumping in on deals. You want, early manager intervention in the deal. You want them greeting customers when they come in. You want them, making callbacks for the salespeople. The problem is today, a lot of these so-called managers just sit up at the desk. But look, they're really salespeople. They're just experienced salespeople. And their responsibility is to be coaching and mentoring their team, which, look, for the benefit of the doubt, they got a lot of things going on. They probably don't have the time. But at least bring somebody in to try to help grow them, right? And I mean, even when I was with Cardone, I mean, we developed a lot of success just by implementing coaching there, because it was taking the bandwidth off the manager, but to actually get results. If you never train your people, I mean, my God, I mean, you're going to keep getting the same thing. You're going to get people quitting. You're going to get people not performing. You're going to be missing deals. And you just really don't understand what's going on every single day. I mean, I was just talking to a dealer the other day. How often do you have a meeting? Once a month. It's crazy, man. You got to have a meeting every single day, and especially in 2020, because it's like every single day you wake up, you don't know what's in front of you, and you got to make sure your people are dialed in. You got to create an atmosphere to lift others up. That's the example of a leader. I was going to post something today, just basically around the fact that, when people hear about leaderships in the car business, it's dealer principal GM or GSM or maybe sales manager. Dude, everybody there's a leader.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a salesperson. You're a leader by your actions. You're a leader by your results. And you're a leader by lifting other people up and mentoring. If you want to be a manager, then you got to be helping somebody else out that you see that's skipping steps, that's not doing the right things inside of the deal, because people think that they're going to wait till they get that opportunity or that position to be ready. This is something you're ready for your whole life by making those steps to do what you need to do.
Yeah, if you're not, I love that, dude. If you're not doing it with actions, then you're not a leader. You're not a natural born leader, right? You're not a true leader, because leaders don't wait for the title. They don't wait to be told to lead, right? They're doing it every single day, like you said, with their actions, constantly, all the time. It happens. Dude, what's the formula, do you think, for in the automotive space when it comes to training? Because, dude, there's a lot of trainers out there. There's a lot of programs. Is it on the dealer side? Because I've had this conversation with so many decision makers, and it's always like, yeah, you get that person in here, it's awesome for a week, and then everything goes back to the way it was. I mean, there's no consistency in the method. I think, like, what do you see as the biggest gap in training and development within the automotive space?
So you're speaking in regards to like the salesperson, like they're excited at first and then they drop off?
Yeah. Like they get somebody in there, they do the training, and then it's like, you just progressively see it reverting back to what they're used to. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I always like to break it down to two different things: the military and athletics. Right. I took the course of athletics, and in athletics, you learn that to become great, it's never doing something once. It's doing something over and over and over and over again. And in athletics, it's practice, right? I was a pitcher, right? So to be a pitcher, I mean, you're out there practicing, it's your curveball, your slider, your changeup, spotting the ball, doing whatever you need to do, knowing what to throw in certain part of the count, looking at, pitch charts and figuring out where people's weaknesses are, and then constantly working on over and over and over and over again. The problem in business, the problem in sales is people think they're going to read one book or they're going to go through one training session or seminar and be good.
Yeah, right.
Remember 10 to 15% of it. And the other problem is people typically aren't intrinsically motivated, right? They don't have that drive every single day to keep doing it. And those are the ones they call the crazies. Those are the ones they call the obsessed. And those are the people that they realize that they got to continue working every single day so they don't become irrelevant. And that's one of the things about, working with Grant and, growing up with Grant. That's one of the great, traits that he instilled in me, man. It's about, you just got to keep moving, man. You got to keep going. You got to show up. You got to do whatever it takes to be able to get to the next level. And you got to realize that it's every single day. You're basically, you have to train every single day to get to the next level, because you prepare more in practice, you're going to bleed less in war. And then again, it's like you're in a dealership. It's like, the manager's up in the sales area, the sales tower or whatever, the salespeople roaming around. they're around other salespeople, which 9 times out of 10, are not motivating them. And they don't have any guidance. If you don't have somebody going through that deal and said, hey, what happened it even used to be, let's say 8 to 10 years ago. Hey man, what happened with that customer? Where are they at, man? Well, they were just looking around. You got to pull the guy aside. So when you say just looking around, what do you mean? Where were you in the process? How come you didn't write him up? 100% write up, man. You got to get him back. Everybody's going to tell you that, hey, I'll have to think about it, man. I'll thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You got to continue to move them through the process. But even that training doesn't happen today in the car business. It's just, I don't know. I just don't get it. It's really the only thing that I've ever seen that I walk into dealerships sometimes and I can't believe the stuff I'm seeing and hearing.
Yeah, dude, me too. And we talked about this. And listen, it's not all. I hate when I kind of get into these conversations because it sounds like I'm generalizing. There are some great, examples in the car business. But we covered this in the very first session you and I did together, where it's this idea, or not idea, but this practice of role playing. Like, it just doesn't happen. And then the expectation is, well, everybody's got to be a superstar, but you're not training at the superstar level, man. So why would you expect that kind of a performance?
Well, it's funny, I would do these Friday shows that were targeted towards the automotive industry. And, I had a pretty big audience on there, and, never ceased to amaze me. There would be somebody like, hey, this is the basics. Yeah, man, it's the basics. And the problem is most people aren't doing the basics. If you don't have a foundation, then you can't be a master. It's just, the problem is, again, there's so many people that will label themselves as masters, gurus, like trainers, this and that and everything else. But it's like, it's only relative towards the situation. If you sold 20 cars last month, hey man, that's awesome. You celebrate for a short period at a time. And then it's like, how do I get to 40?
Right.
What do I need to do? How do I need to do? You talk to people and say, hey, what's your goal? And they look at you like you're speaking another language. I'm like, dude, you're going to be here for 10 to 12 hours a day. Why are you here? To make money. What do you need to do? What are your areas? What are your different opportunities here for you to be able to do it? Are you working the service lane? Are you calling orphan owners? Are you role playing every single day? Find somebody there that's going to be a partner for you, and you guys just team up and say, hey man, you know what we're going to do today? We're going to role play the 4 most common objections that we hear. So again, it comes down to the power of prediction, man. You're in an engagement with a client and they say, I got to think about it. You got to be prepared. You got to know what to say and what to do. Your price is too high. You got to be prepared. You got to know what to say. And again, what happens a lot of times is this, man, because they're not trained properly. Yeah. So it's a combination, I think, like if there's a perfect world, if somebody will say, hey, what's the perfect deal to train people? It's like, first and foremost, mid-level management. You can talk to any OEM. They all say the same thing. The GMs, the DPs, they have whatever they have to do. They empower and trust these people in mid-level management, but they're letting them down because they're not growing and building a sales team, right? It's like it's a revolving door, and it's not something that's conducive to growth because they're not growing their people. The objective of sales managers should be, let me find my replacement. Let me find the person that I can groom to get to the next level, to move them up. And that's the true thing. I put people around me that are at the same caliber of me or higher. And it's like, it's the confidence in yourself, because who you surround yourself with is everything. So if you put yourself in an environment where you're the top dog, you're probably in the wrong environment. So it's like, if somebody's like, hey man, how can I get to 1 million? Man, I can coach you on that. But it's like, hey, how can I get to 5 million, 10 million? I haven't been there, so I can't tell you. Right. So it's like, you got to leverage to get to those higher levels of growth. Your network's going to change. The people you hang out with changes. Everything else is going to be different. But it just starts off by making the first step to commit to yourself that you're going to be great. So one of the things that I'm doing right now, and anybody that's watching this, you're a salesperson in the automotive industry right now and you're struggling, you need coaching, reach out to me, man. I'm doing one-on-one coaching. So if your dealership won't invest in you, you got to invest in yourself. And it just depends. Whether you're there, 3 months, 6 months, a year, or whatever, what I'm going to teach you is something that you're going to carry on for the rest of your life. But I always tell everybody the grass is only greener where you water it. And you got to become great at something first. And if you're in the car business and you have that opportunity, and I still believe today it's a business you can walk into, if you come in with the right mindset, you're willing to learn, you can get to the next level, because who you surround yourself with is not really setting a high bar for themselves. So the opportunity for growth is there for sure.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I love that. I know we're getting close to that time, and there's a question I ask everybody that comes on the show, but I kind of wanted to, before I give you a little bit of time here to let people know how they can connect with you, I wanted to ask you kind of like a one last parting thought, and it has to do with basically what you just mentioned right now, and that's, I think a lot of time the expectation is, or what I keep hearing, especially from young folks in the car business and in sales in particular as well, I didn't have training. Well, I didn't know what I was doing, so it was hard for me to stay there, sort of a deal. And I do agree that there's opportunity within the automotive space to improve on that, but I don't buy that whole excuse, because why would you ever wait around for a company or an individual or an organization to provide you the tools that you need to succeed? Ultimately, that's your responsibility. And that's one of the things that I like about, Grant's philosophy, right? It's your obligation. It's your responsibility. It's your duty, right? So just at that level, man, like people that are tuning in, that are listening in, like you said, invest in yourself. What are the things that we need to be doing as individuals for growth, without waiting for anybody to come rescue us, sort of a deal?
Mm-hmm. Well, man, obviously you read my stuff on social media, and I said the other day, look, change is inevitable and growth is optional, right? You have to make the decision. You can't wait for somebody to give you the keys. You got to go get the keys yourself and create your own legacy, right? So it's like, it's hard, if you think about it like logically, to put out the money to really get to somebody that can help you get to the next level. But the problem is that the thinking, and it's the biggest problem in the first place, if you don't have the money to invest in yourself, that's a problem right away, because you got to be able to create enough money to get freedom to be able to grow. But what you need to do is you need to bet on yourself and say, hey, it's not about the money that I'm going to spend today. It's about the money that it's going to cost me in the long run. And it's about the uncertainty, the doubt, the fear that's going to come into your mind about what to do next. And you're just going to fall back in this continual wheel of uncertainty and not knowing what to do. And then, then you just quit. And then people get derailed. It's like, you got to say, look, I'm going to change my life. And the way that you change your life is to get something new in your life. You got to be prepared to give something up. And maybe it's like giving up coffee for a month. Maybe it's like giving up eating out your lunch, every day for a month. Maybe it's stop going out, or nobody can go out anymore. But, it's
right.
You stop certain things you're doing to get ahead. Sometimes you got to slow down to speed up, right? But it's like, you got to be tired of being stuck, because being stuck stinks. And most people are waking up every single day dreading getting up. I haven't woken up to an alarm clock in probably 10 years, man. I'm up and I'm ready. I'm ready to go, because I have that passion for life. And it's like, I can't get enough hours in the day. And there's people that are like sleeping through the alarm a couple times. First and foremost, the alarm is the worst, I guess, message of all time. Why should you be alarmed to wake up?
Wake up, yeah.
Dude, I mean, like, you shouldn't be alarmed. You should get up because you want to, because you have an intention, because you have a goal. And it's like, you might not think about it today. I mean, if you're young, if you're 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, you could think, yeah, man, days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years. The next thing you know, you're 28, 30 years old, and you're like, dude, what happened? Right? And you had the best years of your life. And all you have to do is make one decision. And your life can change in an instant, and it really can. And it changes once you get it, once you truly understand what is the roadmap to success. Once you know that, then you can go after it. But otherwise, if you listen to the media, you watch the news, it ain't the president, man. The new president coming in right now, whether it's him, whether it's the old one, whether it's going to be the one after that, it ain't going to help you, man. Mm-hmm. You got to help yourself. You got to be committed to understanding that it's your responsibility to take control of your life. You can do whatever you want to do in this country. I mean, it's proven. You can see people all around that have been able to do whatever they want to do. Obviously it took me 26 years. And then now I've been able to set myself up for success where I can have my own company and have the freedom where I can go out and truly do what I want to do. And I think what I'm doing today is what most people that are probably watching this today, they want. Everybody wants freedom. They want generational wealth. They want to be an entrepreneur. They want to do their own thing. But there's steps along the way. There's things that you have to cross because every single day you face challenges. And every single day you're going to run into failures. But if you're not running into failures and if you're not readjusting and if you're not moving forward, then you're not trying hard enough. So it's just make the commitment. Make the commitment to yourself that we're less than 50 days or 50, 48 days, whatever it is, towards 2021, that you're going to start off 2021 and make it your best year ever. And that's going to start by making a decision. And no matter if COVID continues, no matter if something else comes into play, you can still be successful. I know dealers today that are having their most successful year ever. I know people that have made more money this year ever in their career. Why? Because they decided to move forward. Yep. And that's what you have to do. Just make the commitment to block out everything else and just go forward and do what you have to do. And I promise you'll be able to get to the next level.
Yeah, dude. Love that. That's awesome. It's like, and I can't believe who said this. Actually, I think it was in a Karate Kid movie, but it's, what is it? Ambition without knowledge is like a boat in dry land. You know what I mean? So you gotta invest in yourself. There's no excuses. You can't wait around for anybody, man. So, dude, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's a great conversation. I think it's very relevant to what's happening right now. And so for those tuning in, I think that there's a lot of good insights in here. Real quick, man, 3 minutes. How can we get in touch with you? Like as far as programs and stuff, like, is it just one-on-one consulting? Like give us the scoop.
Yeah. So really what my focus is right now is, I'm doing coaching with individuals. I'm doing coaching with companies. I'm doing workshops. I'm doing keynote speaking and things like that. But if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Facebook. It's The Real Jeff Bounds. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's @JeffBounds. And again, on there, you're going to see a lot of content that I'm going to be putting out. I'm going to putting out a lot of content to help. My goal is to put something out there that somebody's going to hear. It's going to give them an idea and it's going to commit them to move forward. And you can go to my website. It's jeffbounds.com. And again, be willing to make that first step. So what I'll throw out there to your listeners and what I've continued to put out on Facebook, and I've gotten to the point where my schedule's getting slammed because I'm getting a lot of people that want to engage, is I'll give anybody that's watching this today a free 15-minute strategy call with me to talk about where you are right now. Tell me where you're stuck. Tell me where you're trying to go. Tell me what your goals are, and I can give you an idea of what it's going to take to get there. It's going to be 15 minutes. And look, you can take that 15 minutes, maximize it, and say, hey, I'm going to try to find out as much as I can in 15 minutes and move forward. Something's going to help you. Something's going to make a change. But where the true transformation is going to happen is when you commit to yourself, you commit to a journey, you commit to a roadmap of success. And what I always tell people is, if you really want to get to the next level, you got to commit to 90 days of really focusing on getting better, focusing on working on yourself, focusing on doing the things that you haven't done before, because what it comes down to is the knowing and the doing gap. Most people are like, yeah, man, I knew that. Well, I get it, man, but why aren't you doing it? Or, hey, I'll let you know. I'll talk to you later. Well, guess what? Later, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to be faced with the same challenges and the same questions. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to wait until you're against the wall. You want to think ahead. You want to think about, what can I do? What is the one idea that I can get to be able to move forward? The first thing is going to start by knowing what you truly want. I mean, people always say, know your why, whatever. Know what you want. What do you want for your life? You got to sit down uninterrupted and think about what do you really want to do with your life? What do you want? What's your passion? What's your drive? Is it money? Is it like lifestyles and happiness? I tell people, look, man, there's 5 pillars to success. And if you want to work with me, look, man, everybody wants to talk about cash flow. Everybody wants to talk about making money. I know people that have a ton of money and they're miserable, right? And what's going to happen is they're going to crash and burn because there's other things in life. So there's 5 things. So if you want to work with me, I'm going to help you in 5 areas of your life. Number 1, mindset. It's got to be solid up here, man. You got to have a solid mind to be able to make good decisions. You got to block out the noise. You got to be able to program what you put your attention on. You got to get that locked in. Number 2, physical. It all goes hand in hand, man. It's a grind. Life is a grind. You got to have the energy. You got to have yourself in shape to be able to move forward because your body's going to control your mind, right? So if you just think, hey, man, I'm going to work on my mind, but I'm not going to exercise and I'm going to hang out and eat junk food and everything else. And it's hard in the car business because, look, man, you got pizzas coming in. You only got a couple minutes. I mean, hell, I ate standing up for probably 5 or 6 years, man, just because I didn't want to miss the next up or I wanted that opportunity. So my diet was awful, but there's ways you can streamline that. So you want to have mindset, physical, spiritual, man. You got to be grounded. Like whoever you believe in, it doesn't matter, but you got to believe in something. You got to believe that there is a universal power that all of us are connected to. So no matter, if you're white, you're black, whatever your race, creed, or color, it doesn't matter, man. We're all the same. If you cut us, we all bleed the same. We're all connected to the same universal source. You need to become grounded. You need to be aware. Most people are either thinking about the past or they're trying to anticipate the future. That's why everybody has depression and anxiety. I can show you how to channel that and actually ground yourself, because the reason you aren't doing the things you know you need to do is because you're distracted, right? So then you got to have your relationships intact. Whether you're married, whether you got a partner, whether you're out dating or whatever you're doing, you got to have that. You got to make time for that. You got to decide, is this the right person in my life? You might not be in congruence with your partner. And again, that's why I always recommend people do a personality test for yourself and your spouse. Because guys might be getting in arguments because you think about things 2 different ways. And once you understand how the other person thinks, then you're going to come into congruence. So you take a personality test, it's going to help you in your life and your business, right? And then it's like, again, you got to have your finances intact, man. I mean, money is important. I'm not going to be the one that say that it's not, but the money has to be intact because you're going to need the money to be able to finance the life that you want. You're going to need to earn the money and reinvest it in your success. And you can't be afraid about investing, because if you hold on to your money like it's the last money you're ever going to have, guess what? It will be the last money you ever have. What you think about comes about. You got to think about, hey, man, I'm going to invest this money and I'm going to be able to 3x, 5x, 10x the money, probably even 20, 30x the money, because you got a different thought. You start doing different things and you start making, a lot better paychecks. So it's just like finding those things that you can integrate and have them all firing, 100% at all times. That is the true definition of success. That is when you're going to live the life you want to live. And that's when you're going to get to your boundless potential. So my thing is, hey, man, if you want to work with me, I'm going to show you how to live your boundless potential in your life and your business. And I'm going to be the guy that's going to walk you through step by step. I'm not going to put you through some sort of arranged program that's just out there to watch videos, do this and do that, and try to put you on with 100 other people. I will train you one-on-one. I promise I'll turn you into a killer. Everybody that I've worked with, I've literally changed the game, changed their lives, and I have testimonials for that. I'd be happy to share with you guys. But like I want to say, man, Herb, thank you so much. I love what you're doing out there. And I really, really want to see everybody that's watching this today really believe in themselves and understand that 2021 is going to be their best year ever. Learn from the past. Yep. Learn from things that are happening. When COVID hit, everybody thought the world was going to end, right? People are still been able to move through it. We've dealt with the pandemic. We've dealt with the financial collapse. We've dealt with the depressions. We've dealt with all these different things that have happened in the country. You will always move forward. It's just you got to control your mind. You can only control things that you can control. Everything else, you just got to have the faith and move forward and not look back. And if you do that, it'll change your life.
Awesome, man. Dude, thank you so much for doing this, dude. I really appreciate it. This has been great. There is one question that I ask everybody that comes on the show. You've already answered that question, so let's change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So instead of where do you see the automotive industry headed in the next 5 years and why, where do you see it when it comes to just the training, development, professionally speaking, like, where do you think we're going, man?
Well, the training and the development aspect of it, sadly, I don't see that really changing, because a lot of people, unfortunately, don't believe in it. They don't want to invest the money. They lie to themselves and say, well, hey, our leaders inside should do this. So they don't give their people the right information to get them to move forward. The one thing I want to say is this. If you're in retail automotive today, you're under attack. Modern retailing and digital retailing is the future. Whether you want to admit it, whether you want to fight about it, it's the reality. Howard Tenenbaum over at Keys just sold a whole bunch of his stores to Lithia. Think about that. Park Place, one of the top performing high-end dealers in Dallas, Texas, sold to Asbury. If you look at the analysts and you look at the people looking at futures, unless the car business is willing to adapt, unless you're willing to give full transparency and a great customer experience to your clients, in the next 3 to 5 years, you will be obsolete. So take it how you want to take it. But car dealers, GMs, dealer principals, OEMs, train your people. Focus on customer experience. Focus on giving them the type of experience they would have through digital retailing. Take cars to people, deliver to people, do whatever it takes to take care of the customer first, and then it'll change the game. There's so many people out there that think that this is just going to go away and we're going to go back to normal, and those are the people that are going to be caught with their pants down. So don't be one of those people, but maximize it while you can. Focus on being your best self, and remember, people buy you. So create that persona, create that attitude of success, and you'll gravitate your clients towards you.
Awesome, man. There it is, folks. Jeff Bounds, everybody. Dude, again, thank you. Really appreciate you doing this. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. That's all the time we have for today. And as usual, we'll talk later.
We only host a well-respected. The vendor LexisNexis. We don't sell digital marketing.
What you do?
We inspected with our DT vendor management solutions. We come in like the EPA to clear out the pollution.
Take the trash
So
out.
keep your P&L clean. Your inventory lean.
From product pitches, meetings to cost negotiations, your vendors have you swamped. You have cars to sell, but most of your time goes in managing your vendor relationships. Wouldn't it help to have someone navigate the way ahead? Enter Dealer Talk Vendor Management Solutions. A filter between you and your vendor so you only have to deal with what's most important. We inspect your digital data to get optimum results for your money. Here's what we do. Give you an accurate idea of what's working and what's not for every digital service. Get vendors to submit monthly highlights, lowlights, and recommendations. Sift through their data to give you those metrics that matter. Evaluate all package, content, or cost changes and product pitches. Do monthly marketing budget analysis to ensure better ROIs. Finally, we give you concise reports and monthly videos with actionable insights. Now, you can focus on what really matters, selling cars. Contact us today and your first 30 days are free. Let's build your business together.